father's passing, I've been an active campaigner and speaker on racism and Islamophobia, and I'm currently working as one of the delegation officers for the humanitarian aid trips that Stand Up to Racism are doing in the Calais refugee camps. Our next delegation, our third delegation actually, is on October the 17th. That's on Saturday, 17th of October. This time we'll take as many convoys as possible and stand united with our brothers and sisters in the camp who have been through the most horrific journey, and we will stand side by side with them and demand that they open the borders. We've just got back with the Birmingham Stand Up to Racism, and we stayed a couple of days this time in the camp to build relationships with our brothers and sisters in the camp. We also volunteered in the distribution centres there, as they're so overwhelmed with the donations that they have received from the UK, and at the moment they've not got enough volunteers in the camp. So if you are thinking of going to Calais, organise a group and go together and help in the distribution centres as well, because they need a lot of help, and the majority of the volunteers are over 60 and they are really overworked. In total, over £9,000 was raised with the Birmingham Stand Up to Racism and the London Stand Up to Racism delegations. This was presented to the charities on the ground, and the main charities we are working with are Secours Catholique, La Bourse to Migrants and Calais Aid. The support for this initiative has been overwhelming. Over 17 cars filled with donations arrived at the refugee camp on the weekend of the 18th to the 20th of September, with students, trade union members, activists, Birmingham councillors, the BBC, Birmingham Press, and people who are outraged with how the government has handled the refugee and migrant crisis, all calling for Britain to open up its borders to those escaping war and persecution. The distressing scenes we witnessed were unbelievably hard to comprehend. The unsanitary conditions of people living in absolute squalor means that there's an epidemic. If it hasn't already happened, it's going to happen very soon. This is more a slum than a camp. It has no infrastructure whatsoever. As soon as you walk in, you can smell the urine, you can see feces. It's absolutely disgusting. I've worked in Syrian refugee camps in Aleppo, and I expected inhumane conditions there, but at least there was infrastructure in those camps. There's no infrastructure here, and there are children in these camps as well. Our brothers and sisters are facing in sheer desperation and are being treated in the most inhumane fashion. And I'm completely ashamed that David Cameron's government are not doing anything to help them. There's only an estimated 4,000 refugees in the Calais slums. Why won't we let them in? David Cameron has consistently said in the media that they're coming here for our benefits. They haven't got a clue about our benefits. They are fleeing war and persecution and wars that our government is complicit in. And it's absolutely disgraceful how this government has given such a negative opinion of our brothers and sisters in the camp. Most are educated. I've spoken to fellow brothers and sisters that are nurses, teachers, doctors that are coming here because we have bombed their country, and literally they're fleeing war and persecution. I was particularly moved by an elderly gentleman. He looked exactly like my dad. He actually tapped me on the shoulder and he said to me, where am I from? And I said, I'm British Pakistani. And he said, you look like my daughter. And he was from Afghanistan. He showed me his clothes and his coat was all torn. And he asked if he could have one of the volunteers' coats. And we literally took him around the corner and gave him the volunteer's coat because he's freezing cold in the camps. You know, it's been raining, the tents are flooded, you know, the aid workers are out there are overworked, they're putting pallets underneath the tents as well to stop them from flooding as well. And basically when we gave him the coat, I had a little chat with him, and he was telling me, you know, his family's in Afghanistan, he's fleeing the Taliban, you know, it's very dangerous for them to be there. He's got family here in London. A lot of our brothers and sisters in the camp do have relatives here in the UK. Anyway, when we got back to the convoy, he actually followed us back and he emptied the pockets and there was money, and one of the volunteers had some of the stuff and he gave it back. I mean, they're human beings at the end of the day. They're being portrayed like they're some sort of animals, and they're being put in like they're literally in slums, and it's really, really disgusting how they are being treated. And we must never forget, first and foremost, that they are human beings. And why are they being treated in this inhumane fashion, less than 100 miles away from London? Now, I'm very concerned about the racism and Islamophobia that is being peddled through our politicians. The majority of refugees are Muslims, and to conflate terrorism with refugees is very, very dangerous and betrays to the world that all Muslims are terrorists. This is reckless and shameful of politicians and can easily whip up racism and Islamophobia towards Muslims here in Britain. And it's highly concerning that the UK asylum policy means that 18-year-olds face potential deportation, even though they'll be offered places here as children. How disgraceful is that? So here in the UK, most recently, we've seen the brutal Islamophobic murder of an uncle in Rotherham, 82-year-old Mohsin Ahmed, who was basically allegedly kicked to death by Nazis in Rotherham. This just happened just over a month ago. And a 16-year-old Pakistani autistic brother was beaten up just 2 weeks ago in Rotherham as well. He had head injuries. My own nieces that live here in Manchester, in Greater Manchester, who I'm staying with, they're 11 and 13 and they wear the hijab, and they were spat at just a couple of weeks ago by the ASDA in Bury, and they were held Islamophobic abuse. These all obviously hit a raw nerve with me, firstly because Uncle Mohsin's murder in Rotherham it's all the same signs as Dad was going to the mosque, and Dad was leaving the mosque actually and was stabbed to death. Uncle Mohsin was going to the mosque and it was kicked to death, and there was no major headlines, no media. Has anyone heard about it here? They've just made that it was an assault, and it's absolutely disgraceful how the media here portrays deaths when it comes to Muslims. Now, Islamophobia is rife, and Islamophobic attacks continue to rise due to politicians and the right-wing media and far-right groups whipping up negative hysteria about Muslims, all for their own political agendas. Islamophobia needs to stop, and we need to open the borders and let our brothers and sisters in. Seeking a better life is not a crime. We must remember, unions have smashed the back of fascist organisations. People need to be proud that we have smashed the BNP, but we cannot be complacent. Calais is on our doorstep. We cannot ignore what's going on. The far-right French politician Marine Le Pen has announced she will stand in the regional elections in December in Calais, a move that will test her popularity before the 2017 presidential vote. What will it be like for our brothers and sisters if she gets elected? Our brothers and sisters in the camp are really vulnerable, and the French police should be protecting them. But the day we left, after the demonstration that was in Calais, they went in and bulldozed all the new tents on the Syrian side, and they tear gassed the area, and they literally bulldozed their passports and their paperwork as soon as we left. So they're being actually treated completely disgustingly, and we need to raise awareness of the worldwide refugee crisis into our schools, into our unions, into our workplaces, and crucially into Calais. Stand Up to Racism isn't just calling for material solidarity, but we'll be calling an international demonstration on the 17th of October in Calais. If we don't act now, fascist leader Le Pen will get in, and we need to fight for our brothers and sisters and be the voice for the voiceless. We should be made to feel responsible for the human suffering of our brothers and sisters all over Europe. So join us please with your cards, your minibusses, your coaches, and show solidarity